Have you ever worked on anything as a director for as long as this, given the break in the pandemic? And
No.
I just
No.
talk about how that affected you delivering this and the challenges you had specifically and how you saw it over the line.
I mean, honestly, like Claressa as an example, like the resilience of just getting back up every time you get knocked down is how we saw it over the line. I've never worked I don't think that I fully understood until now what it means to be a director in the sense of like pushing a boulder up a mountain and sometimes for years on end. And at the same time, like, I think there was this faith, like, I had this faith in what this film could be and how relatable it could be and how important it was. And I just, like, wasn't willing to let it go. So, yeah.
So speak on the responsibility of delivering this narrative then. I mean, Claressa, icon living, pressure much.
Yes. I don't know if I've ever been as nervous in my life as the moment we showed Claressa the film.
Right.
And like, thankfully, it was incredibly well received from the get-go, and she's been nothing but supportive of it, and really does feel like we told her story, which is like all that mattered to me going into this, is that it felt right to her, to the community of Flint, like that we, got everything from like the complicated dynamics of her family to every like punch, that it felt real to her. But yeah, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, most people who make any form of a true story or biopic, like those people have been dead for years, or they're 50 years removed from the moments that you're recreating. And like, here we are, she's still a legend, and she's still boxing, and she's still taking people out. And I just wanted to make sure we got it right.
You touched on some of them already, but when you became like fully acquainted with the story, and who she was without the gloves on, specifically, what did you consider as the most important aspects that had to be included? She's lived a life, you couldn't include it all. It was clearly framed around the Olympics, but for you specifically?
I mean, well, the construct of being contained to her high school junior and senior year,
right.
it did something, I think, inherently beneficial to the film, but also, like, you don't have to take on somebody's everything. It really, like, we got to sort of contrast the vulnerability of her life outside the ring with the, like, absolute force she was inside the ring, and then really just hone in on the relationships. Like, certainly the relationship with Jason, who also is a hero. Like, to me, Claressa didn't get her dues and still hasn't, really, to the extent of her being this legend boxer, but, like, Jason is a legend human who I think is it's really exciting, actually, to tell the story of somebody who has given so much as a volunteer. I mean, he's still coaching kids Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. at the, like, Burston Fieldhouse for free. So, like, I also wanted to make sure we could sort of elevate that story. But I think really just honing in on, like, that special relationship and what it takes to have a coach who believes in you, and, like, the commitment. I mean, Claressa sort of said it, I think at the first premiere, that, like, she realized that Jason believing in her then is why she believes in herself now, and she believes in herself very highly now, as she should, right? And then I think just also the complicated family dynamics, because hers might have been heightened, but like that is reality. Like I think we all have very complicated. Nobody is one note antagonist or protagonist, and like. I think with her, both her mother and her father, like they're very well-intentioned but flawed, and there is still so much love there, and you feel it. Like you feel it in her relationships, and hopefully we did justice to that as well. And I think, the next most nervous I've been was showing her family and showing Flint, and like they got it, because it is, even though they're not portrayed as perfect people, like it is very true to those relationships, then and also now. And I think, hopefully it feels authentic.
I found it fascinating that Ryan, at the screening last night, admitted that her and Jason they went together all the time. That chemistry on screen, though, suggested that they were bedfellows, to be honest with you. It was like really natural, really organic.
Yeah.
How was that for you, I guess?
It's like hitting the lottery.
Yeah,
you kind of can't, you can do chemistry reads, but like, you really are, when you have a relationship as essential as that one was to this film, you're just praying that like that chemistry is natural, and God forbid that not, God forbid they don't even get along, and like how do you then recreate that on screen? But I truly feel like one of the biggest fortunes of the film is they dropped in, and it was magnetic from the get-go, and like I couldn't have directed that. I wish, it was really just a matter of getting incredibly lucky, and you did feel it off screen as much as on screen.
There's so much scope for a follow-up. Do you think you would be involved in that?
Oh, you mean like the part two?
Another movie, yeah. I think you could do another 2 or 3, personally.
Yeah, Claressa does too. She's already writing.
I can
sending
well
us
imagine.
Notes. Yeah. I mean, potentially.
It's the first time you folded your arms.
Oh, really?
It's the first time. So you thought about it. So why?
No, I haven't. But we had such a great time making this film, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, if nothing else, like, you hope that every time you set out to make a film, you love the people you're making it with, and you make a family. Mm-hmm. And I would say we absolutely did that. So it's like, if I knew I was going to get to go work with Ryan and Brian again, and champion a person who I truly believe in, like, absolutely.
I love that you ensured that homage was paid to the region. Just as an outsider looking in, it just seems to be beset by one problem after another, Flint, Michigan. So speak to, and you've already touched on it to a degree, but just speak to you being at home and understanding that element of it and getting that right was just as important as anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it has been beset with one problem after another, and yet also kind of keeps, it's like there's, flowers growing from every crack. Like there is something so inspiring about the resilience of that community, and it's a really special place that you really truly can't recreate anywhere else. And I think it's also, Flint is symbolic of many of the themes of the film. This idea of the American dream versus the American reality. Mm. Like Flint was built off of a dream of, car manufacturing. And then when GM and everybody left, it was like abandoned to decay, and yet it refused to decay. So I think there's a symbolism just even to the environment. And I wanted the environment to feel like a character. I think that's really, especially with so much saturation of media, right? Like films, television, everything. Whenever anything feels like Anywhere USA or anywhere, like I'm so much less interested than when you can be really specific to the place, because it lends something that, I get it. It should be a character in the film. It's important.
You did it well. I mean, from the opening scene, the only thing I would say is I was disappointed that for all those beautiful shots of her on her long runs, not one dog chased her. Missed the trick there. My last question, then, you mentioned at the screening that you've since been bitten by the boxing bug yourself. Yeah. What does that look like? How's that manifested in Rachel's life?
I train, and when I'm home in LA, I train every week at Wildcard, Freddie Roach's gym, with Dickie Edmonds. This was a coincidence, but Dickie Edmonds, who is Dickie Jr., but Dickie from The Fighter, his son, happens to be my trainer. He's amazing. And then I go to like a box fit gym whenever else I can. So I probably am still boxing like 2 to 3 times a week. I love it. And it's like, I think it really is not just the physicality, but like there is something very like spiritual and mental about it. It's the only thing that can like get me out of my wheels spinning all the time head for like I can drop in for an hour and just like let go of everything else. And I think I really need that.
Thanks for your time, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc.